Hey guys, I'm gonna knock off the chapter 12 for you. In the book Zach's Lie. Today is live time. Today is January 5th, 2021. So it's the first day that teachers go back to school. Virtually, that is, Zoom. And that's when I'm reading this, chapter 12. As you can see, I work ahead. Friday, September 29th in the book, and chapter 12 is on page 107. I'm writing this in the cafeteria. Daryl is sitting across the table from me and reading a hunting magazine. I tried to get him to read a book, but he told me not to push my luck. A few other people are reading too, including Catalina and a couple of her girlfriends, 3 tables away. I don't think they're reading hunting magazines. See what's going on? He did something great. Maybe he's like cool now, and so he's reading and other people are reading now because of him. That's just the way I see it. I haven't talked to Peter since I apologized to him last week, but I've caught him watching me as if he's sizing me up. Kind of gives me the creeps, which is what he's probably trying to do. His eye looks a little better. So Peter's trying to intimidate him. I think Wanda and Mom are actually beginning to like living in Elko. I can't say I like it yet, but it's growing on me. Last night, Mom sat Wanda and me down and asked us if we thought it was safe. The postcard was still on the refrigerator when I left for school this morning. And here the writing begins. End of the journal. The bell rang. Daryl looked up from his hunting magazine. I hope you don't expect me to start writing during lunch, too. Maybe next year, Zach joked, after you graduate from magazines to real books. Very funny. Why don't you come over tomorrow and we can have another go at the video games? I'll use my toes this time so that you'll have a chance of winning. Zach laughed. Can't do it. I start my job for Sam tomorrow. Put the journal into his backpack. By the way, it's the end of the week and my mom hasn't said one thing to me about Peter Short. I think you owe me $3.58. Daryl gave Zach $3.60. You owe me 2 cents, he said. When Zach got home from school, he went directly to the refrigerator to get something to eat. The space shuttle postcard had taken off. On Saturday morning, Zach met Sam at the bookstore. Sam's 2 Basque carpenters were named Iker and Giacomo Matteo. Sam told them he would be back as soon as he got Zach started on the building. Sam drove him downtown and pulled up in front of a hotel. Why are we stopping here? Zach asked. Because this is where I live. You live in a hotel? Oh, this is not just any hotel, it's the Nevada Hotel. Do you know anything about the Basques? A little. Zach told Sam what he had learned about the Basques at the museum. The Basques are the greatest people on earth. You'll find that out for yourself if you hang out at the Nevada long enough. It's owned and operated by Basques. My terrible building is right next door. Zach followed him into a dilapidated building. Sam was not exaggerating. The inside of the building was a disaster. A thick layer of wood sawdust covered every square inch, including the walls and the window panes. What is this place? Zach asked. They used to make furniture in here. I think you should have knocked off $1,000 from Mom's contract, Zach said. Sam laughed. You just learned your first lesson as an independent contractor. Never been on a job until after you've seen it. I'll keep that in mind. I've got garbage bags, brooms, dustpans, everything you'll need to get started. I'm going back to the bookstore to help Iker and Giacomo. We only have a few weeks to get the job done. I'll come back around dinner time. In his previous life, Zach had not done much manual labor, aside from cleaning his room, helping his father in the woodshop once in a while, and occasional yard work. The first thing he did was to wipe the dust off the windows so he could see what he was doing. This caused a whirlwind of swirling, choking dust that drove him hacking and coughing out of the building. There was so much dust billowing out the door, Zach was afraid someone might mistake it for smoke and call the fire department. It took nearly half an hour for the dust to settle enough for him to venture back inside. He opened the windows, which seemed to help, and spent the rest of the day filling 37 plastic bags with sawdust, which hardly made a dent in the mess. Sam returned while Zach was filling the 38th bag. "It's hard to tell you apart from the dirt inside. Your hair looks like a dust mop." "Are you hungry?" "I don't know," Zach laughed. "My stomach's filled with sawdust. You better come with me and we'll have to get you a shower before we feed you. I hope the drain doesn't plug." Zach followed him outside and brushed off as much sawdust as he could before they went into the Nevada. "We'll go in the back way," Sam said. "Don't want to scare the dinner crowd." "It's a restaurant too?" "You'll see." Zach followed him up a narrow set of stairs to the second floor. "Why don't you take your clothes off here in the hallway, and don't worry, we don't have any female boarders at the moment, so you're safe. The shower is through that door. While you're rinsing off, I'll see what I can do about finding you a clean set of clothes. You're just about Iker's size. He should have something you can wear." Zach piled his dusty clothes in the hallway, then took a long, hot shower. The drain got plugged with sludge twice, but he managed to clear it. When he stepped out of the stall, there was a pile of clean clothes on the chair. The pants were too big in the waist and too short in the legs, but they would get him through dinner. Zach stepped out into the hallway. Sam was waiting for him. "I just took your clothes downstairs," he said. "They'll have them washed by the time dinner's over." He looked at his watch. "And dinner will be ready soon. You can wait in my room while I take a shower." Zach followed him down the hallway, past doors with numbers painted on them. Sam lived behind door number 8. The room was very simple. There was a single bed, neatly made, a small closet, and a sturdy table with piles of magazines and newspapers. Above the table was a bookcase stuffed with books. "I hope you saved me some hot water." Sam took some clothes from the closet and told Zach that he would be right back. Zach looked out of the room's only window. Not much to see. Across the street was a small grocery store. On the next street over were the bright flashing lights of the Nugget Casino. Why did Sam live in a hotel? Zach didn't know how much money custodians made, but with his contracting business, Sam could certainly afford to live in a house. As Zach looked around the room, he noticed there wasn't anything hanging on the walls. In fact, there wasn't a single photograph in the room, which seemed odd to Zach. Even the Grangers had photographs of their past lives. He sat down at the table and picked up a magazine about opera. He put it down and picked up another magazine. It was written in a foreign language that Zach thought might be Russian. What was Sam doing with this? He got up and started looking at the books in the case. Some were written in the same alphabet as the magazine, and a couple other books appeared to be written in Arabic. The door opened and Sam came in, rubbing his gray hair with a towel. Zach pulled a book off the shelf. What language is this written in? Russian. You can read Russian? Da, я могу читать по-русски. I used to be able to, Sam said, hanging the towel on the rack attached to the closet door. Pretty rusty now. How about this book? Zach pulled out one of the Arabic books. Oh, that, Sam dismissed it. A lifetime ago, I had a roommate from Saudi Arabia. How long have you been in Elko? 12 years. He combed his hair in the mirror. Where were you before? Here and there. A loud bell clanged from somewhere in the hotel. Dinner. I hope you worked up an appetite. Have you ever eaten Basque food? I don't think so. Well, then you're in for a treat. So remember, the Basques, I could be wrong, but we're talking about northern Spain, southern France. Ernest Hemingway, the famous writer, he really loved the Basques. In one of his books, The Sun Also Rises, he talks about his interaction with the Basque people. So yes, the food is delicious. I don't think so. Then you're in for a treat. And Zach followed Sam out into the hallway, where they joined a group of men making their way down the stairs. The men spoke in what Zach assumed was Basque, with a smattering of English words thrown in. Sam joined in the friendly banter. "You speak Basque, too?" Zach asked. "A little." At the bottom of the stairs was a large empty room with framed black and white photographs hanging on the walls. Zach had seen some of the same photos at the Northeastern Nevada Museum. Most of the photos were taken in sheep camps up in the mountains. Sam was in a couple of them. "How often do you go up to the sheep camps?" Zach asked. "Several times a year," Sam said. "I'll take you up with me sometime if you want." "I'd like that." Outside the gallery was a bar with several men sitting on stools drinking. A few of them got up and followed Sam and Zach into the dining room, where they joined the other men at a long table filled with platters of several kinds of meat, salad, spaghetti, beans, bread, butter, pitchers of iced tea, water, and coffee. Zach sat down next to Sam. Near the end of the table, the men started passing the food around and heaping it onto their plates. There were several other smaller tables situated around the big table with couples and families sitting at them. A smaller version of the Basques' feast was at each table. "We're served dinner like this every night," Sam said, helping himself to the salad. "The small tables are for locals and tourists. They come in here when the dinner bell sounds to watch the boarders chow down." The last pork chop was forked off the platter just as it got to Zach. Before he could show his disappointment, another platter of pork chops appeared over his shoulder. Zach turned. "Hi, Zach." It was Catalin. She's a Basque. By the time he had gotten over his shock at seeing her there, she had moved away with the empty platter and disappeared into the kitchen. "I see you know Catalin Cristobal," Sam said. "She's in my home room, but I didn't know she worked here." "Her father and mother own the place. Catalin's been helping out here since she could walk." Catalin came back out of the kitchen with a bowl of salad and a platter of meat for one of the other tables. As she moved across the room, she gave Zach a small smile. Zach returned it and nearly choked on the hunk of meat he was chewing. Sam grinned. "Catalin's a nice-looking girl." Zach changed the subject. "Why do you live in a hotel?" "I'm a bachelor." He has no wife. My room is cleaned every day and my laundry is washed for me, and of course, there's the food." "What do the other boarders do?" Zach asked. "Some of them work at the gold mine. Others are sheep herders down from the hills for the rest and relaxation. Iker and Giacomi work full-time for me. They've been here a little less than a year. They came over to earn enough money to buy a sheep ranch of their own back in the old country." "Why don't they herd sheep here?" "There aren't many herding jobs anymore. Doesn't pay that well anyway. And they're doing fine as carpenters. I suspect in another year they'll have enough to go home if they still want to." "What do you mean, if they want to?" "Well, life is pretty good here. Some of these young guys meet girls who have no interest in going back to the old country. Catalin's grandfather, Benat Pasquale, came over in 1946 with every intention of returning with a bucket full of money, but he never made it back. He herded sheep, saved his money, met Catalin's grandmother, and at her urging, he bought the hotel." "Does he work here too?" "No, he spends most of his time up in the hills herding sheep. He doesn't like it in town too much. He thinks it's too crowded." Zach said. "Elko, crowded?" Sam smiled. "Well, it all depends on what you're used to, I guess." Anyway, Catalin's grandmother ran the hotel and raised the family while Banat stayed up in the hills. He would come down every month or two to see what was going on, but after a while he started to worry about his sheep and he'd go back up. Catalin's grandmother passed away several years ago and her parents took over the hotel. A half an hour later, the men began pushing their chairs back from the table and leaving. Zach was stuffed. "I'll take you home," Sam offered. "But first you better retrieve your clothes. Catalin should know where they are. You could come up to my room and change." Zach walked into the kitchen to find Catalin. "Can I help you?" a woman asked. She had the same color hair and the same smile as Catalin. It had to be her mother. My name's Zach Granger, and I'm looking for my clothes. I've heard about you, Zach, she said. Your clothes are through there. She pointed at a door in the back of the kitchen. This is Cataline's father. Adrian? And a man with thick black hair looked up from the stove where he was frying meat and came over, wiping his hands on a towel. This is Zach Granger, Mrs. Cristobal said. The one Cataline has been talking about. Woo! Zach was pleased to hear this. Ah, the mystery boy, Mr. Cristobal explained. You're new to Elko, I understand. And Zach gave him the story, which was getting a little easier for him to tell. And your mother is opening a bookstore. Elko's 3 E's, Zach thought. With Sam and Mateo brothers. Help, he said. The man flipping meat on the stove yelled something in Basque, and Mr. Cristobal hurried over to give him a hand. Nice meeting you, Zach, Mrs. Cristobal said. You're welcome here any time. The food was really great, thank you. Mrs. Cristobal picked up the 2 platters heaped with meat and pushed the door to the dining room open with her hip. Zach walked through the back door and found Cataline standing in front of a clothes dryer with her back to him. Hi, Cataline. She gave a little jump and turned around. You scared me. Sorry, your clothes are still drying. Oh, I'm not in any hurry. And she looked at the clothes Zach was wearing. Icars or Jacomes? Icar, I think. And they were a lot baggier before I ate. The first time you've eaten Basque food? Yeah, and I hope it's not the last. Sam said that the meals were part of your deal with him. I might have offered to do the work for free if I'd known the food would be so good. They looked at each other, neither one knowing what to say next. It was very awkward. Zach broke the awkward silence. Do you live here at the hotel? No, we have a house not far from school. In fact, it's only about 3 blocks from your house. The 3 E's again, but in this case, Zach was glad that Cataline knew where he lived. Do you work here every day? Well, just on Friday and Saturday evenings, but I'm here a lot. This is turning into a pretty good job, Zach thought. Another awkward silence followed, which was broken by Cataline. Has Peter given you any more problems? She asked. No. Well, you better stay away from him, she warned. You're not the first person to tell me that. He hasn't been the same since his dad got in trouble. How so? Well, for one, he used to be a nice guy. We went to the same grade school. Daryl Gill told me about his dad and the get-rich scheme. Well, I think it's been a lot harder on Peter than his parents. Why have they stayed in town? Peter's mom and dad have the gambling bug bad. Every time they get some money, they blow it at one of the casinos. It's really kind of sad. They adopted Peter when he was 4 years old, and I'm not sure why. They've never seemed very interested in him, and I think Peter would give just about anything to get out of here. I feel sorry for him. We don't get to pick our parents, or where we live. Or our names, Zach said. Cataline laughed. That's right, we don't. The dryer stopped. Cataline pulled Zach's shirt and pants out. Well, I guess I better get back to work. I appreciate you washing my clothes. Cataline smiled and walked into the kitchen. I don't know, guys. It's getting more interesting. But why does this have to be happening again and again? I want action and adventure, not romance.